Hey, what's going on YouTube? Marine X back at it again. SHTF has risen to an all-time high. I think a lot of people are missing the point when it comes to what's going on in LA with the ICE riots, protests, whatever you want to call them. I'm not here particularly to talk about the politics of it. Governor Newsom, President Trump, the mayor, Karen Bass, they got to sort all that stuff out on their own. I want to talk about what it could necessarily mean for a future administration and it comes to our rights and it comes to SHTF, things that I think that you should be doing to prep yourself for any of this type of stuff. So let me just say, bottom line up front, when anyone wants to do a grand task all at once, it's going to get messy. Remember last administration, President Biden wanted to cancel a bunch of student loans that ended up a bunch of legal fights and all that type of stuff. In this case, the administration wants to deport a bunch of people. We knew that when he was elected. So I don't know why so many people are acting surprised when this stuff starts to be implemented. And one thing I'm confused about is, when is LA not on fire? They win a national championship of any type or some type of professional championship, they light their city on fire. They're having a good old time at a barbecue, they light their city on fire. In this case, there's riots going on, they light their city on fire. And this is almost 5 years to the day of the summer of love, everything that went on with George Floyd back in the day. And ever since then, that's when I really got super serious about prepping for SHTF and making sure that my family is protected. I don't have a dog in this fight when it comes to specifically what's going on the ground, but I am concerned about our military being deployed in domestic operations. I think it can become a slippery slope for our rights and for stuff that you're doing in preparation for SHTF. Let's take a look, and first off, let's just see what's going on and why do I have any of these concerns overall. So first off, we know that LA protesters or rioters in police standoff as Trump doubles down on National Guard. 2,000 troops were sent on or about June 7th. 700 Marines were just sent out there to protect federal properties. So right now we got police, we got Marines, we got National Guard. All these folks are kind of clashing all at once. And I guess the easiest thing for me to say is, if you don't need to be in any areas of riots or protests, you shouldn't be there. That's the first way to protect yourself, because you're going to have to deal with stuff like this.
They're coming out.
I mean, look at the police. They're not playing around. They are not playing around with non-lethals coming out and making stuff happen, which if you are looting and rioting, yeah, you should expect to be put down with non-lethals. And if it escalates, maybe even lethals. I'm assuming that had to be either police property, federal property. Why were the rioters there? I don't know. I think that was just a weird thing to be going on necessarily in that specific area. They got concertina wire already laid down. Now, a lot of these we're seeing California officials in this video. I'm not seeing National Guard yet. I mean, like, agitators are using commercial grade fireworks to shoot at law enforcement. That's just unacceptable. First of all, that's not acceptable by any means necessarily. Me particularly, I don't see the point in protesting yet. Maybe I'll see it later on in life. I don't know. But me particularly, I guess because I have a SHTF mindset, I don't see the point in getting out there and protesting. But I'm going to tell you why I'm concerned about this here in a second. And then we got this going on. This is live. These are people that are streaming right now, IRL, in real life. Let's see what they got going on.
Watermelon?
Like, why do they have an entire SUV with flags that are not of this nation, pulling watermelon down the street? It just seems a little nonsensical. Okay, so therefore they're talking about Palestine. I mean, I'm seeing Marines get deployed, and I start to think to myself, you're sending a battalion or nearly a battalion of Marines to the streets of LA. And through any of the training that I've had, we've had training on how to de-escalate protests, but it was mainly for when we get deployed overseas to other cities. And let's just say that I have talked to some of my Marine buddies, and they are nervous about the rules of engagement because they've never had to use force against American citizens unless it was a citizen overseas that was basically treasonous.
This is a live look at Los Angeles tonight amid days of unrest after ramped up federal immigration raids. Right now, hundreds of Marines are on their way in to help with the National Guard. Tonight, the state of California is suing the Trump administration for activating 2,000 National Guard troops without the governor's permission.
And this is, so we got Marines on the ground at the VA hospital protecting federal property, which we need to make sure we protect our property. And that makes a lot of sense. I can understand that. But I just, there's a lot of things I got to say about this.
It is the first time since 1965 a president has done so without a request. And tonight, the president stands by his decision to deploy troops.
And here's the thing, is just like, it's not just LA, it's beginning to go to other states. Here in the DFW Metroplex where I live, it's here now.
Now there is a line of protesters who walked up that street, and you see they're directly opposite law enforcement officers. The protest started about 7, but as you can see, in the last few minutes, they've moved, and there's a bit of a confrontation going on in the streets of Dallas. More police officers arrived.
A lot of people are rooting for this to go, you know, they're supporting the deployment of troops into our streets, and it may be a justified reason to do so. So President Trump activated Ready Reservists, or National Guard of the California National Guard. Normally the guardsman of a state is under the command of the governor unless caught up for national reasons by the president. There are only 2 reasons that the president can enact the Ready Reserve and nationalize them or federalize them. Number 1 is if he declares an insurrection has happened. That's not what they used. They used a U.S. code called the call-up statute. It's 10 U.S.C. 12406. And here's the thing about that is, if you use that statute, you have to follow it pretty precisely. And the thing is that first, the president has to declare some type of national emergency. And normally the conditions to use that is that the state is being invaded by a foreign nation or under threat to be invaded by a foreign nation. Also that the rebellion against, or there's a rebellion against the authority of the U.S. So that can be U.S. citizens. Now, let me stop here before I go to the third one. Arguably, this could be considered a rebellion against the authority of the United States. The word rebellion is defined by the Supreme Court, not by Webster's dictionary. So normally for the Supreme Court, they say it has to be like an organized and often violent resistance, and typically coordinated by a group of people. I do believe that protesters organically went out there, but I believe that on the left, there are paid agitators. I don't have proof of it, but it's just, it dumbfounds me that magically, whenever something's going on protest wise, people just show up well-funded, ready to do stupid stuff. I think that there's paid agitators inside those groups against government authority. Speaking on that second point, it's the intent to oppose, defy, and undermine the establishment of a government and its laws, and aimed at overthrowing or destabilizing the government. I think that the government actually may have a legal leg to stand on. That's why SHTF is something that you need to think about. What if this happens in your specific area? And the third part is the reason that he would nationalize or federalize the National Guard is that the president is unable to use regular forces to execute the laws of the United States, i.e., ICE forces are not able to execute the laws, U.S. Marshals, whatever, and so that he federalizes the National Guard. Here's the thing. It becomes a slippery slope when a future president is able to do something like this for whatever reason. A future Democratic president is able to federalize the National Guard because he thinks that for some type of gun control or something like that. I want this to be litigated and all that stuff will happen in the future because I want this to be defined. But when it comes to you, I want you to really think about what does it mean when you are slowly but surely having your rights chipped away from in regards to the federal government. So what could that look like? It could look like you're just kind of letting it go away slowly and you don't even realize how fast it can disappear. Let me check this video out as well.
Heating up there as you're looking at this scene right now in Dallas where they are clashing with the officers. A lot of people are looking at this, and what I asked to Tom Homan was, is this going to be the new normal going forward in terms of more National Guard being deployed to other cities as well?
It all depends, quite frankly, Caitlin, on what happens with the legal challenges to this implementation of the National Guard. Now, look, there are circumstances where the president can federalize National Guard. Now,
and that's what I was just talking about. Can you federalize the National Guard? Yes. But do we want that to be the case and just give up those rights? Maybe not. It does make me feel warm and fuzzy when I see fellow Marines, just like we have here, ready to protect and make sure things are protected and all that good stuff. But when we are giving up those rights, the next things that could be chipped away from, and I'm talking to the folks that are happy this is going on, they want this to happen, is this can be important because everyone could be missing the forest for the trees. First, it's the Ready Reserve being nationalized, and you're not preparing yourself for that. It's been nearly 60 years since a president nationalized or federalized the Ready Reserve without the governor asking it to be done. Last time it happened was when JFK did it because George Wallace did not want to integrate the University of Alabama after they were ordered to allow black students to attend the college. It's now happening again. Next, it could be, if they're able to successfully chip away at the 10th Amendment, it could be chipping away at habeas corpus, or your right to bring yourself in front of a judge to contest the fact that you're locked up. It could be a violation of your 4th Amendment rights or your 5th Amendment rights. 4th Amendment for unlawful search and seizure. 5th Amendment, same thing for you be able to right to remain silent or not sign a piece of paper that you don't think that you have to. I really believe that as you prepare yourself, number one, don't go out to these situations if you don't need to be there. I see zero reason to do so. If you going out there, you are putting yourself in a scenario where you could be put in danger for no reason whatsoever. Number two, if you take your kid out there, I think you should be 100% charged with child endangerment if you get caught up in those scenarios. I saw a lady earlier that drove her car in the middle of these riots with 3 kids in the backseat. They started busting her windshield out, and I was just like, I hope they arrested her because that's completely ridiculous. But the biggest thing is if you think this is a good thing, it could be. I don't know yet. We're going to find that out through the courts. But don't think that this is something that should be the new normal, because I don't have enough firepower in this household for a future administration that is trying to chip away at my rights. But maybe you think something different. Comment down below. Let me know, what do you think about this SHTF event when it comes to literally riots in the street? Is this something you're prepared for? Do you think everything is going exactly how we think it should? I would love to know what your comments down below. If this is your first time stopping by, well, thank you for hitting the page, subscribe to the channel. I would love to have you a part of my battalion. If this is not your first time stopping by, well, thank you once again for watching me run my grape. For everyone else, we'll speak soon.